Hey everybody, welcome to lessonswithtroy.com. In this lesson, I'm going to be going over this diagram that I made, I'm calling useful scale shapes. We're in open G tuning for either dobro or lap steel, so GBD/GBD tuning from your thickest to your thinnest string. And in the examples that I'm going to play in just a little bit, I'm going to actually be playing electric lap steel. It's something different playing this GBD/GBD tuning on electric overdriven lap steel, but it really sounds cool, and it's useful for lots of different styles. And I hope to record lots of other lessons using lap steel in this dobro tuning. It's something I use a lot lately. Okay, so each one of these necks is a different type of a G scale. So all of these are in the key of G, just different types of G scales that are actually real useful. When I'm improvising, a lot of times I'm not playing lots of crazy exotic scales. I mostly play pentatonic scales and major or minor scales. Maybe some arpeggios or chord tones here or there. But a lot of these licks, are just kind of right out of these simple scales. So I've broken up each one of these scales into different color-coded shapes or patterns. And these shapes or patterns, you can find them on the different necks. For example, on this major pentatonic scale versus this minor pentatonic scale, notice how the color-coded patterns are the same. They're just a certain number of frets away. Okay, and we'll be going over that in just a second. So this is the G major pentatonic scale, G minor pentatonic, a G major scale, and a G natural minor, or also called just a regular G minor scale. Okay, let's dive into this G major pentatonic scale, and I'll show you how this is made. So it's made from the root, the second, the third, the fifth, and the sixth of a regular G major scale. So it's omitting a couple notes from this G major scale. Okay, we're leaving off the fourth, okay, and we're also leaving off the seventh of our regular G major scale, and that gives us a G major pentatonic scale. What's that good for? Well, it's good for blues when you want it to not sound so minor, right? You don't want that necessarily just to be focused on that minor third or that flat seven kind of sound. Country, blues, southern rock, Allman Brothers, that kind of a sound, G major pentatonic scale. It needs to really be a major kind of tonality to that song. You wouldn't want to play a G major pentatonic scale over a minor sounding song. That's where the G minor pentatonic scale would come in, where you've got that root flat third, so that gives us our minor sound, right? Fourth, fifth, and flat seven. So this one will sound a lot darker as far as comparing them to the G major pentatonic and the G minor. When you want that real darker blues, kind of straight ahead blues sound, more of a minor blues sound, this minor pentatonic scale works. But the thing that you're going to immediately start doing is playing notes that are out of this major pentatonic scale and notes that are out of this minor pentatonic, combining them, flat third and also a major third, that ambiguous kind of flat third or major third, throwing in the sixth in there and also the flat seven, putting the fourth in there, putting the second in there. When you start combining these, you have all kinds of cool notes to work with. And that's what I want to show you in that, when I'm playing along with these jam tracks in just a little bit. Okay, now the difference between the G major scale and the G natural minor scale is in the natural minor scale, we have a flat third, a flat sixth, and a flat seven. So you take this G major scale and you move each one of those notes back one fret or flat it, right? And that's where you get your minor scale. What's the difference in sound? Well, major is happy, minor is sad. And honestly, if you're just getting into improvising, these pentatonic scales are great for immediately sounding like you know what you're doing, right? Because it by omitting certain notes, it makes it a lot easier to improvise. When you're using the major scales or natural minor scales, sometimes it can be a lot easier to hit the wrong note, something that may not sound good over a particular chord. So that's why I put these two first. They're really useful scales when you're just getting into improvising. Okay, so let's go over the colors now and how I've kind of set this all up. Okay, first of all, these are just patterns that I just made up, right? Feel free to make up your own patterns as far as like the colors or whatever. But what I really wanted to stress here is how the colors are the same for the different necks, right? It's just you move them either back 3 frets or up 3 frets. Let me show you what I mean. So let's say this G major scale. Let's take this shape here. Okay, that starts on my, 7th fret. And then this one starts on the 10th fret. See how that's the same shape? It's just getting different chord tones or different notes out of that scale. Remember, this is a G major pentatonic scale. So in this major pentatonic scale shape here, this red one, this R, that's a G note. This R is a G note. Now, if we move this whole shape up to the 10th and 12th fret right here, these R's are also G notes. Okay, but this shape here, although it's the exact same shape, right, the same pattern, this shape, because it's a G minor pentatonic scale and it has that flat third, that's going to make it sound minor. Flat 7, definitely minor and bluesy, right? Very minor blues sound here. When you move that here and you've got a major third, a happy third, and I'll be playing this in just a little bit, 6th, very happy sounding, 2nd. So this is a more happy major sounding scale in this shape. Same shape here, but now a darker one. And all you do is you take each one of these patterns and the whole neck, really, and you move it up 3 frets, and it gives you the minor pentatonic version of that scale. So same thing, if you know this shape, if you know from previous lessons, this is the X shape that I've talked about in lots of different lessons, where you connect these dots here with diagonal lines. It forms an X pattern, right? Same thing down here. That's that X shape where the root of that scale shape is right here on your 6th string. Great movable little boxy pattern. All you guitar players love the movable boxy pentatonic patterns, right? Well, that's what this is. And then you move it back 3 frets. See how we're starting on 12th fret here? Move it back here to where the furthest right, let's say, of that shape is on your 9th fret. That's 1, 2, 3 frets, right? You're moving that whole shape down. It's a really useful way. Notice all the patterns here. It's a real useful way of keeping that same shape, but playing a totally different scale just by moving it a certain number of frets. So that's where all these colors really come into play in these shapes. For example, let's look at this green shape here. Okay, this is the same shape as this shape here. Just follow those green, the green dots, right? Now, that being said, you can mix and match these patterns. Definitely don't feel like you're stuck just playing this one shape. If you start, combining the patterns, let's say 6, 5, 3, 2, and instead of getting your root here, get your root here, and then you can come on down. Or 6, 5, 3, 2, root. So when I'm playing, a lot of times I see the whole neck and the tones or the chord tones or whatever you want to say, scale tones over the whole neck. And I might see these patterns here, but if you just get locked into one pattern and you don't see the whole neck, it's really going to limit your improvisation to just a little boxy shape. As quickly as you learn these shapes, start connecting these shapes. Connect the green with the blue, the red with the blue, green with the red, to where you can start moving in between the shapes, start on different parts. And then, like I said, you learn these shapes here, they're the same shapes for your minor pentatonic. You're just moving them either up. If you're moving from major to minor, you're moving the scale shape up 3 frets, Or if you're moving from minor to major, you're moving the scale shape back 3 frets. Okay, that's the same rules that apply for the major scale and the natural minor scale. I got these color coded to show you. These are all G major scale shapes. All these notes work for the G major scale. All these notes work for the G natural minor or G minor scale. So if you're playing a song that has maybe not necessarily a bluesy feel or something, but more of a sophisticated feel, you may want to play more that sophisticated minor scale. It has more note choices to choose from, whereas the minor pentatonic scale works great for blues and something that has a little simpler sound, because it's less notes to choose from. Here you've got a couple more notes that'll add to your kind of colors that you're wanting to use when you're improvising. So anyways, let's move on and get to these jam tracks that I made using Band in a Box. Okay, so what I wanted to mention about this New Orleans jam track, and really anything when you're playing the blues, is let's say you're playing the major pentatonic and you go to that third of the scale. Well, that works great over our 1 chord, right? In a blues, we have the 1 chord, right? Well, when you go to the 4 chord and you're playing, let's say that note is the note B, right? That's the third of our G chord. Well, when you go to that C chord, that B, you really don't want to stay on that B over a C chord, because that B note is a major 7th, which for blues and a lot of folky sounding stuff, well, not folky, let's say bluesy stuff especially, that B, that major 7th sound is super happy, very non-blues sounding. So perfect example is you're playing the major pentatonic scale, but don't hang out on that third of the scale when you move to your 4 chord. Move that down a half step, because then that'll become the flat 7 of our 4 chord. So for example, in G, we got GBD, right? That third of the G chord is a B note. For a C, we've got C, E, G, but then B would be the major 7th. We don't want a major 7th. Way too happy sounding for blues. So move that to a flat that B note, flat that third basically. So then that takes you into the G minor pentatonic scale, right? So this is immediately, that's a perfect example of starting to blend the scales together. Major third, great for the 1 chord. Flat third, great for the 4 chord, because we don't want that happy sounding 7th in there. It's way too happy. I'll show you what I mean. Here we go. New Orleans groove. Focus on the third. Third. Flat third. Major third. And then the other cool thing, I didn't even mention this, when you go to that 5 chord, move that third up to the 4th, the 4 of the scale. It'd be the C note in the key of G, but it'd be the 4th. Look on the minor pentatonic scale shape, it'd be that 5th fret, 3rd string over the 5 chord. So you end up getting, really outlining the chord progression just with 1 note at a time. Here's the 1 chord. There's the 4 chord. There's the 5 chord. You've got notes all over your neck, those 3 notes that can really outline that chord progression. Let me show you what I mean. Here we go again. From the top. Major third. Here we go, flat third. Major third. 4th of the scale. Octave up. Okay, so I'm already hearing stuff and wanting to go off and play some cool things. Different things that I might do for something like this, and these are just really cool kind of ideas that I really wanted to share with you, is some kind of Dwayne Allman stuff, and maybe I'll do a whole lesson on this stuff in the future, but A really neat lick that I like is this one. Say you're in position here on your 12th fret in the key of G. Well, if you walk that up one fret at a time on your second string, 12, 13, 14, 15, it's a very cool sound, and I don't think I've ever taught that in any of my lessons, but I'm getting into some Dwayne Allman stuff, and you hear that a lot. Let me show you how that sounds with this. Here we go. But yeah, so just walking that up, and then you get into, let's say in the minor pentatonic scale, let's say the green, follow the green pattern here. This is one of my favorite patterns on the minor pentatonic scale. 5th fret, 3rd fret on your first string, then 3rd fret, 1st fret, then go down to your 3rd string, and then 4th string. And I've taught that in lots of lessons. It's kind of like the extended X pattern. But when you do that groove and you move that shape up an octave up above your 12th fret, right? So you do that little idea, and now you're in for that extended kind of thing that I just showed you. But you're up here. That's just the green. That's the green pattern for the minor pentatonic scale, and you always got that X shape that I've taught. But let's see here. Yeah, if you start combining the notes from the major pentatonic and minor pentatonic in root position, there you get that major third. And then that minor third. If you know how to work that major and minor third over the chords, keeping in mind, I just said this before, major third over the 1 chord. Flat third over the 4 chord. Move that up to the 4th of your scale for the 5 chord. And then back to the, root. So if I'm in position here, I've got all the kind of cool slidey licks in the X shape, but if I focus on that third, that really outlines that chord an octave up, right? Major third, starting it off. So there's a whole lot of licks and ideas. When I went up there and did some kind of cool stuff up there, just doing that green pattern for the minor pentatonic scale. Maybe I'll go back and forth, Just kind of stuff like that. But and a lot of times you'll hear me go flat third to major third. And I haven't even talked about blocking. I'm doing lots of, blocking with my right hand. That's a whole lesson in and of itself. Just using the heel of your hand to make it more of a rhythmic kind of playing as opposed to letting everything bleed into one another. But yeah, what I was doing is that just third, major third, 1 chord. And then go to the 4th note of the scale for your 5 chord. Find that all over your neck as you're playing a 1-4-5 blues, and you really sound like you know what you're doing. And then start using the scale shapes, you know. And a lot of time for that major pentatonic, what I love to do is to go, it's basically skipping my second string and fifth string and going root, sixth, fifth, third, two, root. It just really makes for a nice flowy kind of pattern there. So get control of that third, and you'll start really outlining these chord changes. So, you know, getting into the major scale and the natural minor scale, that's a whole other thing for you know, as far as the jam tracks go. I wouldn't, I mean, you could try that, you know, let's try that. But it's really going to sound too majory, I think. And you immediately start, you know, that major scale definitely won't work just playing the major scale over that jam track, because that major, you know, that major seventh just doesn't work, right? So that's how you start really outlining those chords, I believe, is and from what I've learned, is having control of the thirds and the sevenths over each chord. Okay, so let's maybe switch gears here, and let's try a different jam track now.